Hello, and welcome to another episode of Justin and Donald Save America. I'm Justin Haskins. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. Today, we have a lot to talk about in a very short period of time. We're going to try to keep this to it's a short episode. Donnie's not here, obviously, so we're going to try to keep it short and sweet and get right to the point. But before we do, please hit that subscribe button, subscribe to our channel, share our videos. Hit the like button if you're interested in the Great Reset, if you're interested in stopping socialism. If you like the work that Donnie and I do here on this channel, on Justin Donald Save America, or if you like us over at Stopping Socialism TV and you follow the work that we do there, stoppingsocialism.com, please hit the subscribe button for this channel, like our videos, because of course, YouTube, Google, they're not doing us any favors. We need your help. And by hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button, you tell the algorithm that this is a video worth watching and it shares it with your friends and family members. So please hit that like button now. All right, this is a really important topic. It's something that has not gotten a lot of attention, but deserves a lot of attention. You're not going to see this in the mainstream press, but you should be seeing it in the press. It's something called the First Movers Coalition. Now, what is the First Movers Coalition? For those of you who have been following my work and the work that Donnie and I have been doing on the Great Reset, we've been working with Glenn Beck for a long time on the Great Reset, over a year and a half now. We've got this incredible new book coming out, Glenn and I co-authored, called The Great Reset, Joe Biden and the Rise of 21st Century Fascism. It comes out in January, but you can pre-order it now if you're interested. It's one of the most important topics going on in the world. It's so complex. It's like 1,000 different puzzle pieces, and each piece plays an important role in understanding so much of what's going on in the world today, from COVID-19 lockdowns to the Green New Deal-like policies of the Biden administration and Build Back Better and vaccine mandates and public-private partnerships and a whole bunch of other things that's going on in the world. Massive money printing, trillions and trillions and trillions of new dollars being put into the money supply, calls for new digital currencies. All of this stuff is part of the Great Reset, and you're going to be able to learn all about that in the book that Glenn and I put together. But this First Movers Coalition is actually something that I don't think made it into the book because it happened after the book had already essentially been finished and was on its way to the publisher, or had already reached the publisher at that point. So we couldn't fit it in. It's one of many things that we really wanted to fit in, but just happened at the last minute and we weren't able to. So I want to do a video to talk about this because it is incredibly important and it tells us a lot about what's happening with the Great Reset. So at the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, which occurred in Glasgow in November of 2021, there was this announcement made by, I think, John Kerry, who's the Biden administration's climate czar, is the one who actually made the announcement. But they made this announcement that they were launching this thing called the First Movers Coalition. And that the purpose of the First Movers Coalition, and we can actually just read it right here, right off of their website, so you don't think that I'm making this up. At the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, United States announces the launch of the First Movers Coalition, a new platform for companies to harness their purchasing power and supply chains to create early markets for innovative clean energy technologies that are key for tackling the climate crisis. Announced by President Biden at the COP26 World Leaders Summit. So there you go. President Biden announced it. The First Movers Coalition was created through a partnership, keep that in mind, between the U.S. State Department's U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate and the Office of Global Partnerships. The Special Presidential Envoy is John Kerry, and the World Economic Forum in collaboration with the U.S. Departments of Commerce and Energy. All right, so this is an official partnership between the World Economic Forum, all right? These are the Davos people. These are the people who are the key leaders behind the modern Great Reset movement. These are the people who launched the Great Reset campaign back in June of 2020. These are the people who said that, who are publishing articles talking about how by 2030 you're not going to own any property and you're going to like it. These are the people who have said that we need to push the reset button on capitalism. That's what the Great Reset is all about. That's what the term Great Reset is alluding to, pushing the reset button on capitalism. These are the people who have said that every country has to participate, every industry has to participate, including China and the United States, that we need an entirely new social contract. We need an entirely new world order. These are the kinds of things that these people are saying. All right. This is the same Great Reset movement that John Kerry has been an open supporter of. The same Great Reset movement that uses the slogan, Build Back Better. Sound familiar? Well, it's because major world leaders in Europe and the United States, including President Biden, have adopted this Build Back Better slogan. They're the ones that came up with it at the World Economic Forum. Well, the First Movers Coalition is a partnership between the World Economic Forum and all of the baggage that comes with that, and with key departments here in the United States. Now, what is the First Movers Coalition? What are they aiming to do? Well, what they're trying to do is get companies to agree to promote, in this case, it's about climate change, but to promote policies and promote ideas and products and services that aren't necessarily going to be successful in the flow of a free market. All right. So they're trying to get companies to agree to buy products and goods and services that the government wants them to buy, services that they want companies to provide, even though there isn't demand for it. So they want to create artificial demand for products and services that are related to green energy, that are related to green energy technologies, that are related to helping other companies go green and things like that, all in an effort to battle climate change. Now, it's not just about that. In the long run, this is going to expand to a lot of other things, but that's one of the key things. That's what the First Movers Coalition is all about. The reason why this is so important, well, actually, before we get to that, let's just read what they have to say here. So it says, at the launch of the First Movers Coalition, more than 25 founding members, leading companies from a wide range of industries around the world, made commitments to spur the commercialization of emerging technologies in this decade. The First Movers Coalition's unique approach assembles ambitious corporate purchasing pledges across sectors, this is what I was referring to earlier, that represent more than a third of global carbon emissions that span heavy industry and long-distance transportation. The technologies needed to decarbonize these hard-to-abate sectors are not yet commercially available or competitive, but are essential to bring to market by 2030 to enable their rapid scale-up to achieve net zero emissions economy-wide by 2050. So again, what is this saying? Read this carefully. The technologies needed to decarbonize these hard-to-abate sectors are not yet commercially available or competitive. So that means in a free market system, these things won't work. But they are essential to bring to market by 2030 to enable their rapid scale up to achieve net zero emissions economy-wide by 2050. So if we're going to have a net zero economy, if we're going to have a Green New Deal-like transformation of our economy here in the Western world, but especially here in America, we need to have these technologies developed. We need to have them utilized. We need companies to build them. We need companies to buy them. We need services related to these things, even though we know that financially it doesn't make any sense for anyone to do this. So what we're going to do instead is get corporations to agree to do this. Now, let's just stop for a second and think, why would any corporation agree to do that, right? We'll come back to that. But we want to get corporations to agree to do this, get banks to agree to finance it, get financial institutions all on board, get investors all on board. Again, even though it doesn't make any financial sense, we want all of these things to happen so that we can help usher in this new economy by 2030, or really the total transformation doesn't happen until 2050, but 2030 is when we want to start rolling these technologies out nationwide in a big, grand, transformative way. All right, so why do we have this? Why, first of all, why does this matter? Why do we care about this? Why am I even talking about it? Well, number one, the reason this matters more than anything else is because at the heart of the Great Reset, the heart of the Great Reset is a transformation of the global economy that puts people who are in the ruling class, people who are elites at banks and financial institutions and Davos and those kinds of groups and organizations, that puts them in charge of managing the economy. That the economy doesn't react the way a market economy normally should under this system, under a Great Reset system. The economy doesn't react to supply and demand. It doesn't react to what consumers want. It doesn't react to what workers want. Instead, they react to what the elites are centrally planning. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that everything that is centrally planned is inherently bad. I'm not a big fan of central planning because I think it's a slippery slope and it leads to authoritarianism and tyranny and things like that, and economic inefficiency. But you could theoretically have central planning that doesn't lead to those things, theoretically. I don't think it ever results that way, but I do think it's theoretically possible. But what these companies are doing here isn't just really about battling climate change. It's not really about just getting on board for the sake of getting on board because they just really care about the environment all of a sudden after all these decades of not caring about it. At the heart of the Great Reset is this transformation of society with these public-private partnerships and private companies working with the government hand in hand, which is what this is all about. It's Davos working directly with the White House to sort of control and manipulate society to make it the way that they all want. But there's also lots of money involved. There's lots and lots of money involved. And these corporations, the reason they're signing up for this, and there were 25 founding members. There were a bunch of other companies that came after this was announced as well that decided to join. And we'll get to the list a little bit later on. I think it's later in this this article here, which was published, by the way, on the State Department's website. All of this is incredibly important information, right? But it's what comes next that really matters. And the motivation behind it being financial, that these companies are getting massive amounts of money for being involved in this, not directly. Okay. It's not that like the government's just necessarily handing these people money, although that is something that they wanted to do as part of the Build Back Better Act and other pieces of legislation that the Biden administration has supported, the infrastructure plan and other things. It did involve funneling lots of money into the hands of these big corporations. But it's bigger than that. It's also central banks. It's the banking system funneling money into this. It's the Fed keeping interest rates really low in order to free up capital for these big corporations that use the money to do stock buybacks and other things. They're getting super rich and super wealthy off of all of this. And the reason that the government wants this to happen is so that they can kind of manipulate the economy to accomplish whatever goals they want to accomplish. The reason these corporations are doing it is partially because they're sympathetic to that idea of manipulating the economy and kind of controlling society. And they do have somewhat of a savior complex, but also what they want to do is make lots of money. So it's a corrupt, cronyist arrangement that these people all have. And the First Movers Coalition is the first sort of big official coordinated effort by the Biden administration and by the people at Davos to try to roll something like this out. This is just the first step. It's going to get a whole lot worse than this as time goes on. But I wanted to highlight it because it illustrates that there is coordination between these two groups. That it's not a conspiracy theory to say that the people at Davos, who are openly calling for a great reset of capitalism, who are openly saying that we need a new social contract, who are openly saying that we need to push the reset button on capitalism, who are openly saying that every country must participate, that every industry must participate, including the United States, including China, including fossil fuels, including every kind of industry imaginable. It's so much bigger than that. These same people who are tied to all of that are working directly with the Biden administration together in a partnership to try to usher in the Great Reset. All right. So incredibly important story, something that we absolutely need to watch. There's a whole bunch of talk in here about International Energy Agency's forecasts and the various industries that are involved in this. As you can see on the screen here, if you're watching the YouTube version of this episode, you'll see that there's steel, there's trucking, there's shipping, there's the aviation industry. And then down here at the bottom is a list of founding members of this First Movers Coalition. These are the people who have gotten on board right away with this partnership between the elites at Davos and the elites in the White House. And we have major companies like we have Airbus, we have Amazon, we have Apple, we have Bain, Bank of America is in here, Boston Consulting Groups, Delta Airlines, Nokia, the list goes on and on and on. United Airlines is down there, Volvo, Western Digital. I mean, these are some massive, massive, massive companies that are getting involved with this First Movers Coalition. And again, just to hammer home this point, the biggest thing that this illustrates beyond any doubt whatsoever is that there is clear coordination between the people who support the Great Reset at Davos and the White House. Now, for those of you who have been paying really special, close, careful attention to what's been going on with the Great Reset, this probably shouldn't come as a shock. I mean, it is a little surprising to me that they're so open about their relationship, given some of the really crazy quotes, which I don't have in front of me, but some really crazy quotes that have come out of the Great Reset movement and the kinds of things they want to do. It is a little surprising that they're so open about their relationship together. But if you've been paying attention, you know that the Biden administration is full of people that support the Great Reset, including John Kerry and Joe Biden, all right, who are the key people involved in the announcement of this First Movers Coalition. So this was an article that I wrote for The Hill, and this one of the really most popular opinion articles that The Hill had in 2020, is my understanding. John Kerry reveals Biden's devotion to the radical Great Reset movement. So this was a year ago. It was over a year ago that I wrote this article. This was before John Kerry or Joe Biden actually became president, before John Kerry actually entered the White House. And John Kerry had gone to this event hosted by the World Economic Forum. And at this event, John Kerry was interviewed by he may have been there virtually, if I remember right. But at this event, hosted by the World Economic Forum, the president of the forum, whose name is, I believe, Borge Brende, I think is how you pronounce it, or Borge Brend. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Sorry, Borge. He asked John Kerry whether the Great Reset was going to happen in the United States and whether people who support the Great Reset are expecting too much of Joe Biden and the new Biden administration. And John Kerry responded, "The answer to your question is," you can see this quote right here on the screen, right here. "The answer to your question is no, you're not expecting too much. And yes, and he's referring specifically to the Great Reset here, will happen. And I think it will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. In effect, the citizens of the United States have just done a Great Reset. We've done a Great Reset. And it was a record level of voting." Now, what is he referring to here? He's referring to the election. This panel happened, when was this? This was mid-November 2020. So this is right after the election. Kerry then later argues that the Great Reset is necessary to what? Fight climate change. He says it's necessary to slow, quote, the climate crisis. And he says that, "I know Joe Biden," this is a direct quote, "I know Joe Biden. It's not enough just to rejoin Paris," meaning the Paris Climate Accords, "for the United States. It's not enough for us just to do the minimum of what Paris requires." Kerry also said that because of the Great Reset movement, he believes, quote, "we're at the dawn of an extremely exciting time, and that the greatest opportunity we have to address social and economic problems," he elaborates a little more on that, "is dealing with the climate crisis." All right. So this is something that's been in place for a long time. This is an idea that has been brewing in the mind of John Kerry and Joe Biden and other people in the White House for a while. They want a Great Reset. They want a Great Reset of capitalism. They want a whole new economic system. And if I had time to lay out the numerous connections and evidences that exist that illustrate that Joe Biden believes this, that he's pushing it, that the Build Back Better Act is part of all of this, then, I would, but unfortunately I don't. You can watch the videos that I've done over at Stopping Socialism TV on this topic, as well as I'll put some of those videos in the show note, as well as reading articles like this one at The Hill, which I'll also put in the show notes, talking about the Great Reset. You can go to stoppingsocialism.com and click on the menu item that says Great Reset, and you'll see a whole bunch of articles and quotes that talk about the Great Reset, what's going on. And of course, you should order the book that Glenn Beck and I co-authored, The Great Reset, Joe Biden, the Rise of 21st Century Fascism, which lays this whole thing out in intricate, elaborate detail in a way that you just can't do on a video. But what this shows is that this coordination has been going on for a very long time, and that it's big. It's not small. Kerry says we're at the dawn of an extremely exciting time. It's the greatest opportunity we have, he says, to address all of these social and economic problems. And it's dealing with the climate crisis. And then a year later, almost, it's a little bit less than a year, they launch, John Kerry and the White House launches the First Movers Coalition, where they're doing this exact kind of thing. So the Great Reset, a lot of people get this confused. The Great Reset is not a push for Marxism. That's not what it is. It's not a push for Bernie Sanders style socialism, although there are some big socialist programs that are part of the Great Reset. It's not AOC's, kind of socialism either. All right. This isn't Democratic Socialists of America. These aren't the people who are hanging out with the Davos crowd. This is economic management and economic control by elites, by banks, like you saw, Bank of America, for example, by investors like BlackRock and others, by people who are in government. It's a control by central banks. It's a movement to control and manipulate society using ESG scores, environmental, social, and governance scores, and other tools, regulatory tools, money printing, and a whole bunch of other things, coordination between corporations and government. It's a way, a movement to control and manipulate society through these other channels, rather than just passing laws and trying to get things done that way, which is much, much harder to do. And you have to run into the Constitution and other things. If you can do it through corporations, through public-private partnerships, through a coordinated effort, well, then you can get everything done that you want to get done without actually having to pass a law and go through this messy deal of fighting things on television and, having battles on Fox News and CNN and places like that over these big topics. You can do all of this behind the scenes using public-private partnerships, money printing, and other things. And it's just, although they're selling the First Movers Coalition, which is part of all of this, that's what this is. It's all part of the Great Reset. Although they're selling it as just these corporations are just wonderful people who are just trying to make a difference in the world. The truth is, corporations, because of all that money printing, because of what's going on with the Fed, because of what's going on with essentially modern monetary theory in the US government, they're all going along with it because they're all getting filthy, filthy rich as a result of it. And investors are also a big part of it too. Groups like BlackRock and others, they've gotten trillions of dollars under management over just the past few years, trillions of additional dollars under management over just the past few years, partially because they're all on board with the system. They're all getting rich off of it. And it is transforming, not will transform, not could transform. They are transforming the global economy. This is what the Great Reset looks like. At its earliest stages, it looks like the First Movers Coalition. There's so much more I wish I could say about it. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. I've got a bunch of deadlines I got to hit. So we're going to have to leave that to a future episode. But if you're interested in learning more about the Great Reset, I'm going to post a sort of a basic overarching presentation. It's a detailed overview of what the Great Reset is in the show notes of the video, so you can check that out. And you can always go to Stopping Socialism TV. We've got a whole bunch of videos over there about the Great Reset on YouTube. And you can go to stoppingsocialism.com and look for the Great Reset. You can also just search Justin Haskins Great Reset into any search engine. You'll find a whole bunch of articles that I've written for websites like The Hill, obviously, I just showed you that earlier, Fox Business, Fox News, and others as well. So Um, Incredibly important that you pay attention to this. This is not the kind of story that you can necessarily share with your friends and family who don't know what the Great Reset is. I think you have to first kind of explain to them the basics before this sort of thing will make sense and will kind of freak them out a little bit. Um, but this is the kind of thing that if you have been paying attention, this is really important news and information. It's something we all have to pay special attention to. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Justin Haskins. This is Justin and Donald Save America. Please subscribe, please like this video, and share with those people out there who are fighting for freedom and individual liberty and who are fighting against the centralization of power, wealth, and control with groups in Davos and currently with the group that's in the White House. Thanks so much. Take care and stay free.